Rebecca, I'm asking you to revise your presentation with a painted color wheel. If you must use a digital camera, be sure your art is well lit and square with the camera lens. You need to come up with something that might have come from a scanner. The presentation needs to be that good. Now, the digital color wheel looks quite nice. The RGB values for the primaries and secondaries are all right, and the intermediate colors seem to be fully saturated. I would say there's some variation with the thickness and positioning of the bars, and you'll want to learn to copy and paste one shape and then perhaps even group a threesome, carefully positioned, and copy and paste the group then, rotating as is needed. It might be that the blue and green circles here could be budged up a bit so that the margin between the bars is the same on the top and inside. Hi Jeff, I appreciate the care with which you've assembled this painted color wheel. Now, the colors are not all entirely successful, and this is the sort of project that usually requires revision. The violets here and the greens are problematic. Also, I'm looking for more transition between red and orange. I'd like you to take a close look at my notes in the drafts review for this assignment. Find that in announcements. Now, with the digital color wheel, I would like to see evidence that you've digested the concepts from the week's readings, particularly from the online lectures. Opposite red in this digital color wheel, we should have cyan. Red and cyan are complements on the digital wheel. While this is an amusing design, the colors ought to be fully saturated, and I've given you RGB values for the primaries and secondaries. Well, hello, Catherine. I know you complain about the quality of your colors, but I think here with the painted color wheel presentation is an issue. Notice the assignments ask you to paint on separate paper. You can then cut the shapes from that page and neatly position them in place. It's a way to control the look of your work. Now, with the digital color wheel, things are much improved. I would say that this design or future similar designs could be improved by drawing diagonals from corner to corner on the backdrop. That's going to help you find the center point. And you can center that central circle so that its center point is there at the crux of the X. Also, you could ensure that all of the radiating lines emanate from that center point. Hi, Regina. Help me know how to pronounce your name correctly, if you will. Well, with your painted color wheel, presentation is very neat. I'd suggest, however, painting on Bristol board versus on a copy of the template so that you don't have the words showing through the paint coat. With blue through red violet, perhaps a tiny touch of white could help there. I'm wondering if you've got the right colors for your violets. Please see my notes in the drafts review for this assignment and announcements. Could it be that your green and blue-green are a little bit dark? In fact, even yellow-green might be dark. There could be more yellow in that color and in yellow-orange as well. This is a really nice digital color wheel, and it's suggesting the eclipse from the last week even, to my way of thinking. I'm taking a look at the intermediate colors between blue and cyan, and I'm thinking a couple of those have gotten mixed up. Also is the red circle directly above the cyan one. Shannon, this is a very neat presentation with your painted color wheel. Now, let's see. I'm looking at intermediate colors on either side of green and orange, and perhaps there could be greater interval there. For example, there could be more yellow and yellow-green and yellow-orange. Also, there are some problems with the violets, and I'm wondering if you had just the right colors for mixing violet. I know that violet was the most challenging color of all. Take a look at my notes in the draft review for this assignment for detailed instructions. Now, with the digital color wheel, I am not seeing evidence that you've really understood the week's readings. With a digital color wheel, we're looking at RGB or CMY or CMYK, and opposite red you should have cyan. Also, this was to be a 24-step wheel. All the colors were to be fully saturated, and I gave you RGB values for the primaries and secondaries. So I'd like you to take a closer look at the assignment and also at the draft review notes. Well, Tammy, I appreciate that you've gotten your work in this week. However, in both cases, your artwork appears to be a bit rushed. Presentation could be better in terms of carefully cutting the color shapes with the painted color wheel. Let's see. It's a little hard to tell what's what here with the image tilted as it is. I'd say that your blue-green is a color that's a bit too dark, and also yellow-green and yellow-orange need modification, showing greater influence of the yellow. If we take a look at red to yellow-orange, there's very little change between those hues. Now, with the digital color wheel, I have offered you a suggestion, a rather important one here. You are not using RGB colors, which will differ from the paint colors. Please take a look at the draft review and announcements. Hi, Marie. Please help me learn how to pronounce your name correctly if I'm not doing so. I'm taking a look at this painted color wheel. I appreciate your neat presentation. I may have said before that yellow-green and yellow-orange could show more influence of yellow. Start with a lighter color when you mix colors like those. There might be greater transition between red, clear to yellow-orange, and violets seem to be more like gray than violet, and I think that you don't have the correct colors from which to mix violet. Please see the drafts for you for pointers. Now, the digital color wheel looks very good. This is a nice design, and the colors are all fully saturated. Hi, Heather. This is an exceedingly neat presentation with your painted color wheel, and I wouldn't be surprised if this has been touched up in Photoshop. Just a word of advice, when there's an assignment that's intended to be made by hand, make sure it looks like it is, and I can tell that these samples were hand painted. With your colors, I'm wondering if your yellow is not quite the right one that would be best for the job. When I look at your green, that suggests a problem with your yellow. Could there be more variation between red to orange? Could orange be orangier? Could blue-green be lighter? Now, with your digital color wheel, at this point, the colors are not all fully saturated and we don't have the correct values for the primaries and secondaries RGB-wise. And I'm just wondering if you didn't save the native file for this, which would have enabled you to move things around and make adjustments. So there's a recommendation. Hold on to your PSD or your AI at full resolution. Hi, Czar. Some of the things I've been talking about with Catherine and Gina apply here. Listen to what I've said to them about painting on blank Bristol board and ensuring that there aren't streaks or strokes in your paint application. When I take a look at your blue-green, I can't see that that's clearly been made from a blue and a yellow that you have here. With regard to the violets, I'd like you to see what I've written in the drafts review there at the start, the notes, and also with the greens. Let's take a look at yellow-green to yellow-orange, and I wonder whether there could be greater change between those colors. Now, this digital color wheel looks excellent. RGB values for the primaries and secondaries are right on, and all colors appear to be fully saturated. Hello, Julia. This is an excellent painted color wheel. The only little suggestion I have here is whether there are a couple of intermediates that might appear to be too dark, those on either side of red and also blue-green. Looking at this digital color wheel, everything appears to be just right. The only suggestion would be to center the image on the white backdrop so there's equal amount of white on all sides. Amanda, with colors including ultramarine in the recipe, I've suggested adding a tiny touch of white to help reveal the hue because ultramarine is a very potent dark color. Now, with the digital color wheel, everything looks great. The only little suggestion I've already given you is that perhaps primaries and secondaries could be emphasized.